I did some thinking and stuff, and I do want to do now more talking about the whole inside-outside situation, because there's a lot of stuff about the King in Crimson that I do want to mention, and then try to end up with something that ties into the whole book sort of thing that I've been working on. But the King in Crimson, like I have mentioned, very ethical, very moral being. To the point, since life is different on the inside than it is on the outside, to the point that someone from the inside manages to be talking with the King in Crimson and does that, big trolley problem thing. You got 5 people here, 1 people here, and the trolley's going to hit 5 people. What do? Do you push this one person in to stop that? Your decision. Do you let the 5 people die, or do you kill one so that the 5 can live? And that just blows the King in Crimson's mind for a short time. Short circuits them, basically. It's like, they'd never thought of things like that before. Because when they look at that, their first impression is, remember, I'm not human. I'm not human. I am human. I'm not non-human. I'm not higher than human intelligence. I don't think like a non-human that happens to like humanity. I am humanity. So trying to think like the King in Crimson is a challenge, but I figure their first response is, I will not answer this the way it is presented. This is a false binary. There are more options than just these 2. No one has to die. And if you are telling me that we're in a system where people have to die, then instead of choosing who dies, you change the system. You don't just decide who dies today. Because with their head here, they see the analogy, they see the metaphor. This isn't just a trolley problem. This is how do we keep people alive in the world today with things continuing the way they are? Do we sacrifice these people to save these people? Or do we just let things happen and then these people die? So isn't it better to... No, false binary. There are other options. And if you are in a system where the only options are that false binary, where somebody has to die, then the system is broken. You don't keep using a broken system. You especially do not decide on a day-by-day basis who has to die today so that we can maintain the status quo of the broken system. And then who must I choose tomorrow to die so the system continues, and the day after, and the day after. For the King in Crimson, this binary option is just thoroughly abhorrent and horrific. And when they finally put it together, looking at this problem that they've been given by the person from the outside, looking at the person who lives on the outside, again, they are just momentarily shocked and horrified that this false binary, these broken systems, this sacrificing of those that shouldn't be sacrificed to maintain the status quo of those with more, that we live under this on a day-by-day basis, just makes the Crimson King have a major revelation and a thorough upheaval of what little they knew and what little they thought about the outside. Because if we out here have internalized and normalized this horrific binary, we're on a day-by-day basis, which of the trod upon should die so that we can maintain the status quo of those more privileged to be less inconvenienced? They are horrified by those implications. So that's one big moral thing about the King in Crimson. And the other, of course, is they want their wonderful, beautiful machine, their civilization that they are building to survive and last as long as possible after they go. As a sort of monument, as a sort of posterity, but not so much to them. They just want it to continue because people's lives are objectively better. Every generation has been a little bit better than the previous generations, and they are very proud of that. It would be nice if that machine could keep running after they're gone. And I figure one of the last interactions we see with the King in Crimson, in the context of this book and the little slice of life stories, the King in Crimson is talking to somebody about what they fear about the future. And normally, their face, the mask that they wear over their face is an exaggerated emotional response to something. So if they're smiling, it is a wild grin. If they're sad, it is super exaggerated. The mask, when they're saying the next thing, is super exaggerated, but you can see between, you look in the holes of the mask and around the eyes, the skin is tight, and you see the mouth after they're done speaking, the lips are pursed tight, and they just look pale, and like the words that they have just spoken are physically hurting them. Because the last thing that they say are something along the lines of, it would be a terrible shame and horribly ironic if after I pass, it all falls apart into bloodshed, endless wars of succession, and one bloody coup after one bloody coup forever. Less than a day after my passing. What a shame I couldn't see that irony. And just a look on their face that you can see under the exaggerated smile of the mask is just the possibility of all those dreams turning to ashes in their mouth.